Mayor Kim McMillan, and I welcome you to this brief press conference that we're going to have about an issue that I'm sure many of you have seen in the news lately. We've been having conversations for some time with all of our community partners like the Homeless Coalition, other providers such as Buffalo Valley, the Salvation Army, area churches, and the Community Action Agency. And we've been having these conversations for some time, especially when we knew that we had the possibility to have sub-freezing temperatures in the Clarksville area. We had been having conversations with Manna Café, but as soon as we learned about Manna's immediate plans, we wanted to make sure that our most pressing safety concerns about the location that they had intended to use for their shelter were being met. Now, some of these concerns included this particular space was never set up to house people or as a place of assembly. It was an office space that had been used as an office and had not been reconfigured. Overcrowded sleeping areas for men and women, inadequate egress for the sleeping areas. The restroom facilities were inadequate. They had expired fire extinguishers, and there was inoperable emergency lighting. Both the fire marshal and the building and codes agree that this particular space is not suitable for more than 20 occupants. So as we begin the conversations with Manna about these particular issues, we realized that we had our other community partners that would be involved. So as you probably heard, there were multiple available beds in the Clarksville area last night in many of our shelters when we did have cold weather. So just to give you an example, here are the numbers from last night. The Salvation Army only had 3 individuals check in last night. So there were 14 empty beds plus 2 family rooms, which were all empty. Room at the Inn had 13 individuals that had checked in and were receiving services. They had 36 empty beds within the room in the inn facility. Buffalo Valley had 7 individuals stay with them last night. 2 were brought from the hospital by the police department, who has been instructed to be on the lookout for individuals that might be homeless or who need care, and when they see them, they will take them to available shelters. So those 2 came from the police department. The other 5 that were there were actually transported there by Manna Café and those individuals. So now that we've been watching the weather predictions, and we are concerned with the impending continued sub-freezing temperatures. So out of an abundance of caution, even though we have all of these available spaces within our community for those without shelter to be housed, I have decided to open the Burt Cobb Community Center, which is a city facility, beginning tonight and continuing through the sub-freezing weather for use as an emergency shelter and warming shelter here in the Clarksville area. The volunteers from Manna Café have graciously agreed to assist us in staffing this emergency shelter and will be on site with us to make sure that that is done. The team we will make sure that all the appropriate rules are followed and that the appropriate intake forms are being used for people who stay at the Burt Cobb Center. The Cobb Center is set up to house men, women, families, all having separate facilities, and they also have adequate restroom facilities. The community center is set up as a place of assembly, and as such is much more appropriate for use as an emergency warming shelter. I want to say to all of you that I appreciate the continued discussions with Manna Café's leadership and the work being done by all our community partners throughout the Clarksville area. My highest priority is, and always has been, the safety of all of Clarksville's citizens, including those that are less fortunate and need homes during the cold weather. You know, working together, we can address a potentially hazardous situation for some of our most vulnerable citizens. And I want to applaud and let all of those partners know how much I appreciate everything that they have done and will continue to do over the next few days as we endure this cold weather. Thank you, and now we have with us actually the chairman of the board of Manna Café Ministries, Mr. Chuck Boyd, who's going to come up, and Charles Boyd, who's going to say a few words about Manna Café's involvement. We also have some folks here with the city, with community and housing development, who have an expertise in a lot of the issues that pertain to homelessness and other issues that the city is doing to make sure that we make the provisions for those that are less fortunate. So Charles, if you want to come up and...
Thank you, Mayor McMillan. We appreciate Mayor McMillan's willingness to work with Manna Café and of course with all the agencies in the Clarksville area. Our goal at Manna is to serve the community in the right way and in the safe way. It's not about who gets the credit, it's about that something is done. That is what Manna is all about. We follow that tenet that we can help others, we can help those who are less fortunate. And when we look at that, the reason we call this press conference is because we heard through the grapevine that some sort of rally was planned for this evening at the swearing-in ceremony for city officials as some sort of protest. Manna leadership, board of directors, all of us feel that because we don't have anything to do with this rally, we don't believe it is the best way for us all to move forward. We don't need the credit, we need help. There are people out there that need help. There are people out there that have a bona fide need at this time when the weather is threatening to drop below freezing. So we ask people not to take part in this rally. It's not positive. It is not reflective of Manna. It is not reflective of the ministry at Manna Café Ministries. And I'd like Kenny York to come up and say a few words. Kenny is the executive director of Manna.
And thank you everyone for coming. In regards to the rally, one of the things that we had already planned to do and try to put a positive spin on it is that we were going to set up a coat and blanket giveaway and also a way for people to channel this energy that's been accumulated over the last 24 hours as far as getting involved. We're going to do that in the Riverview Inn parking lot as a way to activate our community in a way that we can put a positive spin on this. So that's something that we definitely wanted to do. Manna Café is excited about the opportunity to use the Burt Cobb Community Center. One of our plans that we'd already put in place is because we wanted to make sure that our folks would be taken care of. We were partnering with another church who's part of the Room at the Inn program to offer beds for a couple more nights as well. So we're going to divide our team up and man both sides. So that's just part of what we do. We're not about making a name for Manna or not about doing protests or stuff like that. We're about being proactive. It's about people sleeping under the bridges. It's not about me. It's not about the mayor, and it's not about my board. It's about people who are hurting, needing the help. And so thank you for your support, and thank you, Mayor, for graciously giving us this offer.
And that concludes the press conference, but I'll be happy to take a few questions. And as I said, if you need some specific information, we have some folks here who can answer those questions. Let's see, we'll kind of start on the road. I'm going to start up here. So,
in the event after hours, after business hours on any given night, not just this particular week, how is the city monitoring whether there are beds available? Do the shelters report to you, and how is that information given out to the public?
I may need to call up, if Tammy wants to come up, she's with our Community and Housing Development Office, and I think she probably has information, but I can tell you we have a method for collecting that information. It's not something that's distributed to the public, it's distributed to those entities that may need it. So when people call and they need to know, we have some folks that need a place to stay, we would need to know where to send them. But Tammy, you want to come up and answer that question?
Of course, the agency, my name's Tammy Kilgore, I'm with the City of Clarksville's Housing and Community Development Office. Our agencies actually have a very good relationship and coordinate together, and so they actually partner with each other as to what's available. For us, as far as our office goes, especially on situations just like this, we actually get on the phone, we call Salvation Army, we call Community Action Agency, we call Buffalo Valley to find out exactly how many beds they do actually have available, and then we will report that out to the other agencies.
Okay, let's see over here.
Mayor, it seems like with all this empty space, there's no need for the community center to be open. I mean, you said out of an abundance of caution, but is that just to appease people, or why is it even?
Well, actually, part of it is because we know that the temperature tonight is going to be much lower than it was last night. I do believe that part of the reason that we had a number of empty beds last night was because it did get a little warmer than was expected last night. But we do believe tonight and tomorrow night it's going to be extremely cold. And so that's why, out of an abundance of caution, we believe that we're probably going to need that space in order to make sure that we're providing all of the services.
When does it officially open, and how long will the community center be open?
Well, we have said now we're going to open tonight at 5 o'clock, and we hope that by Thursday we'll be able to close it down, because the temperature, we believe, will be hopefully getting back to normal by Friday. But we will continue to monitor that, and if the need is there, if the other existing shelters cannot meet the need, then we will leave it open.
Is there a cost associated with this?
There will be a cost associated with the opening of the Burt Cobb Center, because it's normally not open in the evening hours after 10 o'clock. So there will be some cost, but we can absorb it within the city budget. Anything else? Well, thank you all very much for coming.